meeting of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to decide Nigeria's 2015 election started off with political parties at about 10 a.m. on Saturday morning and was followed by several other meetings with the security operatives and INEC's resident electoral commissioners and other top commission staff. After all the meetings put together, which lasted about 12 hours, the decision to postpone the election was announced by the chairman, Professor Atairu Jega.
The national elections, i.e. Presidential and National Assembly, are now to hold on March 28, 2015, while the state elections, Governorship and State Assembly, are to hold on April 11, 2015.
The announcement follows weeks of speculations and controversies over the shift in the date from the earlier scheduled date of February 14th and the likely consequences of such move. Welcome to this week's edition of Law Weekly. I'm Victoria Idowu. We will be looking at the constitutionality of the action of INEC, and our guest on the program today is a senior advocate of Nigeria, Norrisin Quaker, and he analyzes the situation so far. But before we delve into that properly, let's take some headlines. The certificate drama involving the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate General Muhammadu Buhari is entering a new phase, with the battle now shifting to the courts. But General Buhari's counsel, Wale Olanipekun, informed the court of his plans to file preliminary objection to the suit challenging his eligibility to contest the election. Barrister Max Ozaka had sought the pronouncement of the Federal High Court, Abuja, on the eligibility of General Muhammadu Buhari to contest the election, alleging that he lied on the oath that he obtained the West African School Certificate and that the said certificate was in the custody of the Nigerian Army, which later denied the claims. Justice Adeniyi Ademola adjourned to the 23rd of February for all parties to file the necessary processes. Meanwhile, a federal high court in Abuja has referred a suit challenging the eligibility of President Goodluck Jonathan to seek re-election to the Court of Appeal in Abuja for determination. The ruling by the presiding judge, Justice Ahmed Mohammed, makes it two cases now pending before the Court of Appeal, challenging the president's eligibility to seek re-election in the forthcoming poll. Justice Mohammed made the order of referral following an application filed on November the 28th by the plaintiffs in the suit, Adejumo Ajagbe and Olatoye Wahab. Later in the week, the Supreme Court of Nigeria dismissed the appeal filed by a member of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), challenging the decision of the Court of Appeal to stop him from contesting the 2015 election. In dismissing the appeal, the panel of 7 justices, led by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mahmood Mohammed, said the appellant had no business joining in the eligibility against the president. The PDP member had appealed an Abuja High Court over the charge, but the Supreme Court dismissed the case. The Federal Executive Council has approved 8 draft bills in the transport sector. They are the National Transport Commission Bill 2014, the Nigeria Railway Authority Bill 2014, the Nigeria Ports and Harbour Bill 2014, the National Inland Waterways Authority Bill 2014, the National Road Reform Bill 2014, the Federal Roads Authority Bill 2014, the Nigerian Postal Commission Bill 2014, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Bill 2014. The Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Dr. Ruben Abati, said the Council also approved a draft bill for the establishment of the National Great Green Wall and the National Policy on the Staple Crop Processing Zones, which will guide the development, management and operation of staple crop zones in the country. According to the Council, the bills will be transmitted to the National Assembly for enactment into law. With the judiciary workers' strike over in Lagos, judiciary activities are still yet to commence in full force as lawyers and interested parties failed to turn up for the Lagos State Coroner's Court sitting in Ikeja into the cause of the collapsed guest house owned by the Synagogue Church of All Nations. This consequently led the court, presided over by Chief Magistrate Oyetade Komolafe, to adjourn till Tuesday, February the 17th this year for continuation of hearing. Before fixing the date, Chief Magistrate Komolafe expressed the court's determination to see to the end of the matter in 2 weeks, even as he urged lawyers and interested parties not to deploy delay tactics as proceedings continue. The Federal High Court, sitting in Warri, Delta State, has dismissed the application for the stay of execution filed by the Independent Electoral Commission (INEC) against the judgment of the court, which ordered the restoration of Ughelli South 1 and Isoko North 1 constituencies. It will be recalled that the court, in its judgment on the 31st of October 2014, ordered INEC to restore the 2 state constituencies which were suppressed by the Commission in 1998. Dismissing the application without cost against INEC, the presiding judge, Justice Shitu Abubakar, said the Commission had no reason to delay the implementation of the court's judgment.
After the announcements by Professor Atairu Jega, reactions have continued to trail the postponement, while the opposition APC seem to be pointing accusing finger at the ruling party. The director of media of President Goodluck Jonathan's campaign organization, Femi Fani-Kayode, has denied the claim that the PDP is behind the change in date.
It's very clear to us that there were issues and that those issues had not been fully addressed. One of them is the PVC issue. We listed some of them in the press release, in the text here. There were all kinds of issues. Clearly, INEC still has quite a lot to do to get its house in order to ensure that it can conduct a free and fair election on that day. And that's precisely why, when you couple that or marry that to the security concerns that our military chiefs have and our security agencies have, to postpone this election by 6 weeks was the right and proper thing to do, even though it is painful for all of us. We wanted to go on February the 14th. It would have been a day of love and a day of voting for Goodluck Jonathan. But unfortunately, we've been denied that. We've been asked to continue to campaign for another 6 weeks. It's a painful thing, but at the same time, we have to accept it because it's in the nation's interest, and it's in the interest of INEC, and it's in the interest of the future of democracy in this country.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the main opposition party, the All Progressive Congress APC, General Muhammadu Buhari, has warned that there must be no further postponement of the polls. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, presidential candidates expressed dismay over the reason given by the Independent National Electoral Commission for its decision, wondering how the insecurity situation in the Northeast could be fully tackled in 6 weeks.
That's how INEC has been compromised. By the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, INEC is the institution or the body that will organize and conduct elections in this country. It is up to the government to secure INEC. But with the military we have, if for 5 years the Nigerian military cannot secure 14 local governments, 10 in Borno, 2 in Yobe, and 2 in Adama, out of 774 local governments in this country, does that mean it's just a delay tactics? Because in 6 weeks, what they can't do in 6 years, they cannot do it in 6 weeks.
In a swift reaction, a professor of law, Ita Sage, says he is more disappointed as well as concerned at the postponement of the elections. According to him, he believes the umpire has ruined its integrity and independence.
The result of that is that INEC loses its independence and becomes a body that buckles under the pressure of one side of the contenders, amongst the contenders, who do not feel comfortable about the outcome of any election, particularly if held now. So if I were INEC, I would arrange to have secured venues so that, in fact, you may have to merge polling units. Have secured venues, where fewer venues, we can be properly protected by the security agencies so that people can vote there and then go back home. If you do that, there would have been elections everywhere, but not necessarily in every polling unit. If you do that, of course, you have met the spirit of the elections, and the spirit of democracy would have been satisfied.
Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke, has reacted to speculations of the constitution of an interim government. He described it as unconstitutional. My guest on the program today, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Norrisin Quaker, talks about the constitutionality of the postponement of the elections by INEC. It's been about a week that elections have been postponed, and we know that before the elections were postponed, there were speculations for and against. But when you first heard the news, what did you think?
First, I was disappointed. I'd had foreknowledge that the election date will be shifted. There will be an adjustment to the election timetable. And at first, we didn't believe it until when we read in the papers that the chairman of INEC was summoned to appear before the Council of State meeting, and that he had assured Nigerians that the election will hold and that it was prepared as the electoral umpire to conduct the election. So my initial attitude was one of disappointment, that why will the election be shifted? Why will it be postponed when the electoral umpire had assured Nigerians of his preparedness or his readiness to conduct the election?
Talking about INEC being ready, about 23 million people have not gotten their PVCs. Do you think INEC was really ready for this election?
I want to believe it. How else can one know the preparedness of an institution if not from the position of the umpire, the person who is responsible to conduct the election? And in this wise, the chairman of INEC came on air and said, INEC as a body, INEC as an organization was ready to organize the election. Yes, while one concedes the fact that some Nigerians, some categories of persons had not received their PVC, but again, go a step further. How many registered electors actually participate in the election? How many? Not everybody will have the PVC. All kinds of people. Some people obtain the PVC just for justification in their various offices. In the event that there's a requirement to show your PVC, you now have it to protect yourself. And then some people will have it because it's some form of identification, but not for the purpose of participating in the election. I'm one of those who believes that you cannot disenfranchise the voting public. Whilst one concedes that point, that a number of registered voters had been deprived of their PVC, and therefore, if INEC, within the time frame given, was able to ensure that those who ought to have were given their PVC, because INEC continuously and consistently maintained that it was ready to organize the election. On what basis was it ready to organize the election? Was it on the basis that those who ordinarily should vote already have their PVC, or those who desire to vote do not have their PVC and therefore cannot vote? On what basis would INEC come on air? So as far as we're concerned, if the electoral umpire comes on air and says, I am ready to organize the election, so be it. Any other imputation by any other person other than the umpire will now be seen as usurping or as reading in meaning or imputing things that are ordinarily not there.
Do you have your PVC?
Yes, I do, because I intend to vote.
How was getting it like?
It wasn't so difficult for me, let me be honest. When the electoral timetable came out, and we were also advised to go to our various polling centers to obtain our PVC, I went and obtained mine. And those who complain, and I'm aware now that some categories of persons who complain that they didn't have their PVC now have their PVC. Sometimes some of us are also lax. We leave things till the very last minute before we now indicate interest.